But I think the one thing is like past events, leave it in the past and don't dwell on it. And I think that's been a nice journey for me as a personal, because I do obsess about things. I think I'm not, but I know that I am a bit of a perfectionist. Perfection isn't a thing. It's not real, right? And like, just go do stuff. And this is something I learned tremendously from Matt. And I think it's been cool to have partners that we can lean and learn and grow with each other on. And Matt's mentality is like, yeah, we just got to go do stuff. And I would tell myself that.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Drew Pearson. You are listening to the Pearson Perspective. This is a deep dive into the stories and mindsets of successful business operators and investors. Let's go have some fun. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited about today's guest. Tommy is the co-founder of Storage Pug, who, in my humble opinion, is the greatest self-storage website company in the world today. Tommy, thanks so much for coming on, and I'm so excited to talk about how y'all got started in the business, how you think about people, and all the great things you're doing.
Drew, thank you so much for having me out. You got me up high there. Thank you for the love already. No, it's been a ton of fun. But no, it's been fun to kind of watch you guys grow over there. And love having you. Thanks for having me on the podcast. This should be a good conversation. But I think one cool thing about people is that, at least, again, we've been in business for 5.5 years, right? So this isn't. I don't have a lot of sage and wisdom to impart on our listeners, but I can share what's gotten us to this point. Mm-hmm. I think something about people is most people. I'd argue every person, but most people, they want to like do something that matters. You know what I mean? Like they want to do something that matters, no matter how big or small, right? It could matter to one person. It could matter to a community. It could matter to the nation or the world, right? They want to be able to they want to put themselves in positions where they do things that matter. And then secondly, and it's related to the first thing, they want to do things that matter, that impact other people too. Right. And I think like that's something that we've kind of figured out here at Storage Pug is like, yeah, if you put people in places and positions and just kind of say, hey, this is what we're trying to do as a team, go do it, and just kind of get out of their way. I think that's been a big part of it. And we've made a lot of mistakes. But I think on the flip side, we've also done a lot of cool things with our team and our cast here. And, you know, you've gotten a chance to meet quite a few of our people. Alex, I think you met with Tyler. You hung out with Chris quite a bit. Yeah. And I think the main thing, and they'll tell you similar things, we kind of say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. I'm just going to get out of your way and you're going to do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the, I think that's critical. Now, of course, I skip a lot of context and foundation, right? We don't all get to just go wake up and that happens, right? I think the company's responsibility in the whole kind of social agreement is like, it should be a good place to work. We should be building a product that matters. We should care. We should want to be the number one or the best product in the market, right? And I think that helps people kind of latch their goals and their ambitions to what we're trying to do. And I think the more people rowing in the same direction is better for all people involved. We're going to get there faster. And whether it's faster or not, it's going to be a lot more fun and more enjoyable if two people aren't rowing against each other.
Yeah. Amen.
Right. I mean, so I think there's a lot of context and foundation that needs to be built. But once that's there, then now we just have to have more people join us and do fun stuff and help build on that foundation that's already there. But yeah, man, I think for me, for Storage Pug, that's a big part of it. So people, no doubt. And because here's the thing, and you know this because you take care of people too. I think if the people have fun and you are able to take care of people, then they're going to take care of the other people that actually do matter, right? They're going to take care of the customers. They're going to take care of the other stakeholders. They're going to take care of the people who keep the lights on. And to me, that's nothing beats that. That is the best place to be. So long answer to your question there.
No, man, it's so great. I mean, it's all about right people, right seats. I mean, that's what it all comes down to, giving them a clear vision and a clear mission. And then, like you said, get out of the way and go execute. But so I have a bunch of questions here. The first question that comes out, we talked about stakeholders and investors, employees, customers. When you're thinking, we need to treat all these people the correct way, but are you putting most of your attention on your team and your cast so that they can go and serve everyone else? Is that kind of how Tommy's thinking?
Yeah, I think like we all have jobs to do, right? And like I'm not that special. I also want to work at a place that I can create impact, right? I also want to be at a place where the things that I do actually matter to other people, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, like in that world, like we're all kind of, again, I'm the same. And so I think over the years, what my impact means as a as a founder or co-founder of the business, my impact zones have changed, and if they haven't, then we're making a lot of mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's grown from being the frontline person to supporting the frontline person to now supporting the people who support the frontline person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, absolutely, the vast majority of my day, outside of the meetings that we attend, and in the planning and the strategy and the stuff like that, the vast majority of the energy and the mental space that is, what are the stucks and the hurdles that are in people's way, so that we can remove those ways, right? So we
Yep.
can actually let them be in the space where they can get out of their way and do their thing, right? And so yeah, I'd say the vast majority of my energy and like mental capacity goes to, what are the stucks and what are the hurdles that are in people's way, so we can, make it easier for people to create an impact, or make it easier for people to do the job that they want to do really well, right? So yeah, so I think that's a big part of it. If I'm slicing and dicing, I say that's the majority. Other chunks, of course, is still to this day, and I think this will never change, is listening to real people and how they interact with StoragePug as a
Mm-hmm.
company, as a brand, as a product. What are people saying? How are people talking about StoragePug? What do people love about working with StoragePug? What do people not love about working with StoragePug? So I can change that,
I
right?
can answer
And
all
so
those for you right now.
and I'm so excited about all of
Yeah.
those things. And I think like listening to customers and speaking, so that it helps us speak the language of our customers, right? Because I think that's a big part of what we try to do for storage operators, is help you, as the guy who owns storage facilities, speak the language of your customers. Because if you're speaking the language of tenants, you're going to rent more units. You're
That's
going to
right.
have happier customers. You're going to have less headaches and less hassles. It's the same thing here, right? So I think for me, the vast majority of my time is removing stucks and hurdles from the people who are here and who are doing an amazing job taking care of our clients, and also listening to clients and figuring out what it is they love and don't love about doing business with StoragePug.
Man, that's great. So let's back the story up a little bit. I'm not sure what you were doing before 5.5 years ago. I've heard a few rumors of kind of how StoragePug got started. Kind of walk us through the genesis story of how we got here today.
I think like much like you probably, well, unless you're one of the rare people, you didn't wake up. Well, you weren't born and then decided, hey, I want to be in the storage business,
No, it was
right?
not.
And I surprise, surprise, I that wasn't me either. I really consider myself so lucky. I lucked into this business. Before 2017, I ran a software company where we built custom apps, websites, projects for startups and nonprofits and that sort of thing. And that was a lot of fun. Cut my teeth there. Built a lot of great relationships. Learned a lot about how to run a business, how to not run a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of like learning, because those are my early 20s, right? Like right out of college, I started this business, and it was just a ton of fun. Got a degree in computer science. Uh, I was pre-med before then, and I decided that blood and guts were not my thing, so I'm
Yeah.
going to not do that anymore. And shifted gears to computer science, and honestly, one of the best decisions that I ever made. And just like most good decisions, my wife helps me make that decision. And I think about it, right? I'm 32 years old now, and I would have just now finished residency and all of that kind of crazy chaos that
Yeah.
doctors go through, right?
Yeah.
Especially if I was gonna specialize, and I did want to specialize, and that's crazy to me to think about that. I've had a whole life
Yes.
these
Yes.
last 8 years,
Yes.
10 years, not being stuck in medical school. So I think that's pretty wild. So for me, that's how it began. So pre-med, shifted gears to computer science, started tech companies, and then 2017 rolls around. My partner There's three partners: Matt, Richard, and myself. Matt's family owns self storage, and right around that time, Matt got let go from his job. He was a software developer, got let go, and not a good situation. He just bought a house. So he's like, hey, Tommy, can we team up? Can we do some things together? And we met in college, and we're like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it. So we actually did a few projects together in this, kind of in between time. And his dad's business partners who owned the storage facility reached out and said, hey, we could use a new website. We're like, oh, okay. Sure, we'll send you a proposal. We sent them a proposal.
We can do that.
Piece of cake. Yeah, it's just a website, right?
Yeah.
No. So they said, no, we don't want to pay what you're asking. So like, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, well, that's just crazy. And it's like, well, this is what a website costs. And, because we're going to build like a totally custom thing, so on and so forth. And they said no. And we're like, okay, let's peel back the curtain a little bit. Matt went to a Tennessee self-storage state luncheon in Knoxville. His dad invited him. And so Matt comes back from the event and was like, hey, Tommy, all right, it's more than just a few facilities. And you know this. Storage is a little bit bigger than that. But I think for me, the thing that kind of like caught me in or really pulled me in was there are dedicated events for storage professionals to get together and meet and talk just about self-storage. In my mind, that was crazy. Like, is this real? And of course it's real, right? Like Tennessee has 5 shows every year just in Tennessee.
Yeah. Every
North
state
Carolina
has
6. It's, of course there's the national shows and we're like, okay, I'm in, I'm all in. And so I told Matt, like, hey, let's do this. I told Richard, hey man, like guys, let's go do this. And so this was the beginning of 2017. And at that time we're like, okay, let's just shut everything else down. I was already working on a few different projects. One was it was like a Bluetooth Geiger counter. I was working with a company who was associated with the Oak Ridge scene, the Oak Ridge National Lab, and we were working on a really cool project there. We're like, hey, I'm going to move on from this project. I'm going to introduce you to someone else who can finish it. I'm going to jump into the self storage business. Several people thought I was crazy, but I was like, no. There's like 50, 60,000 of these facilities, and most of the operators, and here's where the story kind of like started piling on. The vast majority of facility operators like you are independent. It's not conglomerate driven, right? It's not like the hotel industry. It's not like single family. It's not like apartments. Self-storage is very fragmented. But the other thing that really drew me, of course, now we have a place to market it. We have a potential product that people need and want. Surprise, surprise, at the time they didn't need or want it.
That's right.
We had to figure this out. But I think the third thing that really drew to me was, even though the independent operators was the largest market segment, it was the most underserved, right? As a guy or a gal who owns 1, 2, 5, 10 facilities, you don't have the economies of scale. You don't have the capital. You don't have the revenue to do all of this stuff yourself, nor do you want to do it.
That's the key.
That's it.
People still treat, even to this day, it's still a side hustle. You go to these conferences and it's like, I own this business and I forget about this self-storage that I happen to own. It's crazy.
It's crazy. We're talking about multi-million-dollar investments that you forget about, right? Yeah, and it blows my mind. So like, people don't have the capacity, they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the money, nor do they have the desire to do all of this stuff, right? And so for me, all my check boxes for like how to start a business, right? If I had a mental checklist, all of these check boxes are being clicked. And then I think the final set of check boxes was, okay, product, how do we do that? And then people, like, how do we actually support it if we were to go do it, right? And so Matt and I were like, hey, let's put some money in. He had a little money. I had built up some cash from previous businesses, and I said, let's go do this. And so we gave ourselves 6 months.
Wow, it's a short fuse.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, that's all that we could afford. So we said, let's give ourselves 6 months. And that was the beginning. That was July 17th, 2017. That was the first day we incorporated. We bought storagepug.com on Google domains for $12. That's where some of the money went. And we said, all right, if we don't make things work by December, we got to go find jobs or let's go do something else, right? Maybe storage wasn't for us. It took us 5 months to land our first customer.
Nick of time.
And it turns out people didn't want and they didn't think they needed what we brought to the table, right?
Yeah.
This is 2017. All the people who have been in storage for or new to self-storage in the last few years, all the online stuff is like status quo now. If I'm looking back just 5 years ago, it was not status quo.
Absolutely.
When we did a little bit of market study, it was less than 10% of storage facilities offered online rentals and online payments. Less than 10%, right?
And is it 90% today?
I would say so. It's been a while since we've done that study, but I would venture to say it's 90 plus. And we're talking about the REITs. Public didn't do online rentals in 2017.
Golly.
KeySmart, Life Storage,
Man.
Extra, right?
That's
And so
insane.
it's insane. Now there were a few regional players that offered those amenities. Like I think StoreQuest was one of the first. SAM, Storage Asset Management, they were doing it. So there were some regional providers who were tinkering. But the REITs weren't doing it, and and definitely independent operators weren't doing it. So we're like, we have this cool product, we have to educate people, we have to like convince them to buy it, and it took us 5 months to land our first customer, and then we ended the first 6 months with 9 operators who were using our platform. So that felt really good to go from 0 to 9. And so we're like, okay, let's make this work. And so we committed another, we decided let's do everything we can to make this work. And that was fun. So now we're talking 6 months in, we're beginning of 2018. We're not paying ourselves. We're not, we're figuring things out. Right. And so, Matt, Richard, and I were like, hey, what if we close a business, if one of the founders were to close the business, we'll just split that commission, right? And that's how we paid ourselves those first 18 months was any deals that came through, we would split the potential commission 3 ways. And so, there was a lot of ramen in that time period. There was a lot of, it was the classic startups, and I think like we eventually graduated from working in Matt's basement to a 10 by 10 office space that we squeezed 6 people into. And then we got a little bigger space. And then last winter, we moved into our current office now that makes us feel like we're a real company. But those first 18 to 24 months was ebbs and flows and rocky at best. But I think just like any good business, you have to have like good timing, right? You have to have grit. You got to stick it out there. And of course, luck is a big part of it. I wouldn't be here without luck, but I think timing was a key and necessary ingredient. Cause 2019 was a good year, but then 2020 happened with COVID and the pandemic. And now all of a sudden you get Life Storage, CubeSmart, Public, all these people rushing to develop an online rental platform. And so that puts pressure on the entire market to be like, oh, you know what? This is now the new norm. And guess what? Hey, we're the guys from Knoxville. We've been doing this now for a few years. we're still here. And it was really, really kind of life-changing. 2020 was a life-changing year for a lot of people, but for StoragePug, it was the moment where we actually saw true product market fit, right? The market was finally ready to use our product. And all this time we were obsessed about making the best in class product, like you said at the top of the call. Thank you. And the operators who were using StoragePug at the time, they already knew what the secret sauce was. They were already taking full advantage of online rentals and reducing the friction that their customers went through and increasing their own efficiencies, right? They were already doing those things. And then now it's just like on a national scale of like, oh, everybody, we all need this. And lucky for StoragePug and timing wise, we were there and we were willing. And again, like I said, I don't know what would have happened if 2020 didn't happen as in a general sense. But I think like that was a big timing wise. Now, just like any good story, we that was offered to us, but we had to take full advantage of it, right? We saw a good opportunity to be like, hey, can we, because conferences and trade shows, people still wanted the networking, they still wanted the education. Can we now migrate from in-person events to more virtual type events? And that's when we launched Gap Fest. That's when we launched the Gap Focus sessions. And we had lots of amazing partners along the way to kind of help make that as fun and exciting and as successful as it's become, right? And then 2021 happens, and then now this year, it's just been an incredible year because we've got to meet people like you who are doing cool things in the industry that we're not looking back, right? We're not going to look back at 2018 and say, hey, we all want to do it that way. We want to do it the way that we're doing it now and then get even better and more efficient and faster and easier for customers. And I think that's kind of the way of the future for storage. And I'm excited to be a part of it, honestly.
Yeah, man, there's no doubt. I mean, there's just a huge rising tide in the industry. I equate this a lot to multifamily. In 2008, multifamily, was owned a lot by mom and pops and a couple institutions, and that's flipped. And now majority institution, only a few mom and pops, and self storage is going through the same thing. And on top of that, the product is just becoming more familiar. It's getting safer, nicer, cleaner. Customers are comfortable paying $225 a month, $300 a month for a blue key, a Bluetooth activated lock and a nice facility. And it's huge. It's stabilizing in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I saw in 2020, I forget which company published a study. It might have been Marcus Millichap or Gardner, one of those companies who published studies. They said that self-storage technology fast-forwarded 5 years in the span of 9 months in the first 9 months of 2020.
Yep.
Right? And it's true. Like, it really did. All the people who were reluctant to even like show their rates online, like Drew.
I know.
I know, but in 20, when we were starting this business and even 2018, 2019, when I'd meet an operator at a conference and, I learn about how they run their business. I learn about their goals. I learn about what they're dreaming about, what they want to accomplish. And then I find out that, they're not doing anything to help achieve those things. Like, they don't have online rentals. They don't even have rates. The only way to do business is to show up and like talk to a person, which is, I think you should have that. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's probably a competitive advantage, especially if you're up against a bunch of fully automated facilities. Having a person might be a competitive advantage for you, but don't let that be the only advantage, right? Participate in the marketplace. And 2020 more or less kind of forced people's hands, kind of like you said, the 2008 situation forcing the hands of single family or multifamily in apartments. But no, I think self-storage technology is accelerating. And I think, like, from the vendor or the provider or the technology point of view, it's been fun to watch multiple new companies show up in our industry and the existing companies doing better. Like, whether it's better locks or Bluetooth technology or better hardware, better security systems, like, it's fun to watch all of that happen unfold, right? So, like, and it's like, I don't want to be too sentimental about it, but like, we're going to look back at this time period and be like, whoa, that was a lot of change happening in one industry. And like, to me, it's like, oh, there's an asterisk somewhere that says Storage Pug was a part of that. And I think that warms my heart.
I love it. Well, let's talk about what I probably the most important part about Storage Pug. I mean, it's the people. Everybody from Tyler at the trade shows, he kind of has this like cool guy hipster vibe, and he's just a good guy to talk to. Alex, Chris, all these guys. It's just not an accident. You're not throwing mud against. This isn't like an insurance company. We're throwing mud against the wall and see who sticks. Help us understand how you think about hiring and onboarding and what's going on in the Storage Pug world.
I love that. Well, Tyler, I'll give the Tyler story real quick. I'll give him 30 seconds here. He's got a big head. Don't worry. He is cool, and he is the coolest person at Storage Bug, hands down. But I've known him for about 10 years. He and I have worked together at 3 different places, and he's the kind of person that you want to do business with, no matter what it is, right? So he and I worked at an IT company together. He and I worked together at my past software company, and now, of course, he's here at Storage Pug. And he's an incredible individual, and I think a lot of it is intentionality. I think he's a sharp guy, but he knows what buttons to press when, right? Which is a killer trait to have in a team member, in a teammate, right? And he knows when to turn it on and when to turn it off. And like I said, he's just an incredible person. But what you said there, like you don't luck into really good people. I think you have to, well, sometimes you do luck into really good people, and congratulations. But we have, I'd say, much like a lot of young companies starting out, we did struggle a little bit finding good help and finding amazing people and find amazing talent. Because in the early days, we couldn't really pay people very well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like truthfully, like we were bootstrapped. We had the cash that the founders put in, and yeah, it was tough finding amazing people. But the people we did find, um, during those early days, those early time periods, we still were very intentional about what kind of skills or what kind of passion or energy they brought to the team, if that makes sense, right? And I think that was important to us. And in 2000, was it 2018 or 19, a few years ago, we did a massive, and I think every company, I don't want to prescribe solutions per se, but this was life changing for StorageBug as a company. We got together with a really, really cool guy. His name is Jeremy Floyd. He's based here in Knoxville. I think he's like the chief something something of Covenant Health. Like, look him up. Cool dude. He spent a whole day with us doing a workshop of finding out our individual core values,
Mm-hmm.
are what we bring to the table and what we want StoragePug to be as a company, right? And so we walked out of that with three things that kind of identify StoragePug, and that was our brand promise, our core values, and our core purpose, right? And our core purpose is simple. We want to empower people to find freedom in their lives and maximize their potential. We realized that Richard, Matt, and myself, all three of us, that's really what we strive to do for ourselves. We want to maximize. I moved from Vietnam. My family moved here when I was a kid, for that sole purpose. My mom wanted a better life for her kids,
Wow.
right?
That's
And
awesome.
I was not going to have this life in Vietnam. My mom knew that, and I had nothing to do with it, but I'm reaping the rewards of that. I'm very lucky and fortunate to get to follow the American dream here, right? And
Love
like,
it.
to me, that's incredible. So freedom and empowering people to maximize their potential is like, it's in our DNA. It's what we believe in. Our core values are the guiding principles on how we want to run the business, right? Being a good steward. It makes me happy to make you happy. Being extremely curious. Complacency is nowhere in our DNA. We have to keep getting better and better and better,
That's
right?
right.
These are the ways that we run our business and what we believe in. And then our brand promise is our measuring stick, and that's fun, fast, and familiar. No matter what we're doing, it has to be fun, it has to be quick, it has to be timely, and it has to be familiar to the audience. We have to speak the language of our customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so after that exercise, like I said, that was life changing for the company and for myself, really. But after that exercise, we knew, okay, that is the benchmark. That is the measuring stick. When we interview, when we recruit, when we hire new people, when we train new people, does it match those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes we're lucky and it works out. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we find out sooner than later.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And that is a good thing. We've had to part ways with folks early on in their process in time here at StoragePug, and sometimes people go a little bit longer, and we realize, hey, who you were and who we were at the time you started, and who we are now and who you are now, we don't.
Oh.
It doesn't fit anymore.
Okay, we got to have this conversation. I mean, so these are
Good.
crucial conversations, right? And how do we do this in a loving way,
Oh,
towards our employees in a respectful way? This isn't like pound sand. You didn't show up on time. How do you enter into that conversation where you say, "I've changed you," whatever? Walk me through that.
it's tough, and I can't say that we've done it a few times, and I can't say that we are any better now than we were when we had to have our first conversation like that, right? I'd like
Yep.
to think we're a little better, but they're still tough because these are real people, right? It's not like, and we're a small team, right? I think we have 30 something people here at StoragePug, and this is the largest team that we've ever had. But when you're a team of 10 and you're having to have these hard conversations with somebody, that's a tenth of your workforce. That's someone that people see every day, Monday through Friday, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's tough. And I think the approach that we took is, you got to be real. You got to be real with the person. Be like, hey, and real doesn't mean you have to be harsh, right? It just
Right.
means being truthful. And the part of the truth is, yeah, you have been awesome. Like these are the things that you did that we couldn't have done without, right? But then also on the flip side, hey, these are things that is no longer working. But having the core values, having the promise, having the purpose, they gave us the vocabulary to be like, hey, this is one of our core values, and it's just you're not there, and it's okay. It's not anyone's fault.
That's
But
right.
I think it's best for you and best for Storage Pug that we part ways. And there's also other things that we've done over the years um, that make that separation easier, because like we don't ever want to put someone on the street,
Like,
right?
what are those?
And
What are those ways? I mean, what are those? Some of those specific
I
ways?
think one of the ways, and it's better now than it used to be, is like having an actual severance package, right? And
What
be
is
like, hey,
that? What is
like,
that?
what is that? Right? And being like, hey, like, it's not going to work out, but I'm not going to put you on the street. Here's, 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever the situation might entail, right? And it is
So,
different per individual.
so,
But here's pay. Yeah.
so forgive me. Like I've only had one W-2 when I was in high school, and I was actually fired from that job. But so that means like, hey, we're going to part ways. We can call it being fired, or just we're going to invite you somewhere else, and then we're going to give you a severance package,
Yep.
and
I
everything we
think that,
can.
that's it, right? I think those are I think that's the, I think there's three things, right? One is having an honest and real conversation, right? And of course, without breaking HR laws and all those other kinds of things, right? But I think it's a human and human conversation. And fortunate or unfortunate, I have been in every one of those conversations, because it is a human to human
Yeah.
conversation to have, right? And my partners feel the same. Like they want to be there, because it's not just a business to employee relationship. Like as a small team, I see you every day. I know about your life. I know about your kids. I know about your, right. And I think it does make those conversations potentially harder, but you have to be real and truthful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to think like, hey, I know the human and the individual matters, but like there's also 30 other people that depend on this
Correct.
business striving and thriving and doing well, right? And so I think you have to think about the greater good. And I think that's a responsibility and accountability that's tough. But I think that's the first thing. Second thing is, the severance idea. And like I said, depending on the situation, it can be 2 weeks, 4 weeks of pay, 6 weeks of pay, whatever the situation might entail.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think last but not least, and this is something that we extend, especially in situations where this person's not a bad person, and no one at Storage Pug that's ever worked here is a bad person. It just didn't work out. And I think the what we extend is like, hey, if you need a recommendation, if you need an introduction, let's not burn bridges. I'm here, right? Stay connected with me on LinkedIn. Shoot me an email or a text message that says, hey, I'm looking for, do you know so-and-so who works at this company, right? And we've had people reach out over the years, not as many as I would like, if I'm being honest, right? But I've had multiple, 3 or 4 different people reach out and like, hey, I'm trying to get in at this company. Do you know anyone over there that would be awesome? Hey, would you be okay to write me a LinkedIn recommendation? Or, hey, can you just sign this letter that says I did X, Y, and Z? Happy to do it, right? And I think those are the 3 ways that companies can kind of make that transition easier for people who don't work out. Because the easier that is, the more energy we can focus on the people who are here, who are thriving, who are kicking major butt, who are doing an incredible job, and focusing on their health and well-being, right? And I think something that we've done as we've grown as a company, and I hope to think that other companies operate this way, is people who, when they join Storage Pug at a time where we couldn't afford to pay them very well, we keep up with market rates. In fact, we have now, because of the way the world works, we aim to be way beyond market rates. So when we hire someone, it's not just, what does Knoxville pay you for that job, right? We ask ourselves, like, if you were to get this job elsewhere, like a big national publicly traded company, what are they paying for that job? And I want to be at that level, because that's how you have the best.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it's not just hiring new people, it's keeping the existing people who are awesome at those rates, right? And so we've been very intentional about doing salary bumps and merit increases and those kinds of things as the company does well. And like we've had situations where, for like within a 6-month period, that same person received 2 or 3 raises, just because that's just how that works. And so we never want to hire somebody. For example, if Sally comes on board today at current rates, I don't ever want Bob to to feel like, oh, I've been here for 18 months and I'm being paid less than Sally. That just feels
Absolutely.
weird,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Just like you, like I've never also had a corporate job, right? I think like the biggest company I worked for was Bravo Italian Restaurant in college, right? I was a server for 4 years,
Yeah.
and I never like worked in an office environment. But I think like I hope that most companies operate that way. That's what we try to do, anyways. But I think that's a part of keeping really good talent, because at the end of the day, if the Drew Pearsons of the world aren't happy, then none of this matters, right? If whatever processes, people, or product that we've built, if they don't take care of you and other customers, then yeah, we're a bunch of losers. We need to go back to the drawing board. So it's definitely something that I obsess about, that I know my partners do, and it's definitely the stuff that kind of keeps me up at night. Of like, hey, what hurdles do we need to remove so that the processes can be super flowing, the people are incredibly happy, and the product is the best product in its class, or class defining, even if that's a thing. So yeah, that's those are the things that keep a software company founder up at night.
Man, that's awesome. I was sold really months ago. I don't remember if it was Tyler or Alex, but just this whole mindset. One of our core values is 1% better every day.
I love
You
that.
know, and
Yeah.
and without using that specific language, they really embodied that in how you think about growth. Whether that's like moving towards a 2-click rental system on the website, mirroring Amazon, just all these little things of how can we get better, and that's what I think is so cool about Jill's company.
Drew, thank you, man. I appreciate that that's noticed and observed, right? Because I think like when you're analyzing a company, I think the first thing that customers should do is, does that company provide the thing that I need, whether it's a service or a product, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the number one priority of a buyer, and it should be, right? If I'm buying something, I need to know that that solves my problem. But I think
Yep.
secondary to that is that company the kind of company I want to be associated with? And I always want Storage Pug and its people to represent the kind of company that cool people want to be associated with.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that was noticed, because, yeah, I think our version of that 1% is complacency is the enemy of success.
Absolutely.
That's our core value. And Matt, that was from Matt. Matt played football in high school and in college. And that was something that stuck with him from his coaches and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, every day we have to get better. And just because we're doing awesome in this short period of time doesn't mean anything. Right? Today we might be the number one, or in some people's opinion the best, or whatnot, but like tomorrow there might be a storage Rottweiler or a storage German Shepherd who comes to town.
That's right.
Right. And
That's
takes
right.
the pug out for lunch. Right. Or take
you
our
got to have an
money.
enemy. I love the enemy.
Yeah, and sometimes it's we compete against ourselves. Sometimes we look around and there are people who do things that might be better than we are, and then other times we have to look outside the industry. Like you referenced, like we did a ton of research on the way Amazon, the way Airbnb, the way Shopify does their e-commerce. And we're like, oh yeah, we have to incorporate that, because not only is it like technically a good user experience, it's because you are also on those platforms.
Absolutely.
Literally everybody's on Amazon. Most people have done an Airbnb rental, and a lot of people have shopped on Shopify, whether they know it or not. So these are all experiences that are familiar to consumers. So we want to recreate those experiences within the storage industry. And that was, I think, a key part of our success. And so if we were to like start over, I would say that that's something we would do earlier in our journey, instead of it took us a couple years to realize that was the way to do it. But like Matt told me last night, like, hey, it doesn't matter how cool the product is. If we don't have a product, we can't sell it. And so in the early days, the focal point was like, let's just go build stuff. Let's build as much as we can, as fast as we can, and let's get the name out there. And I'm glad we took that approach, because that gave us a platform that when the timing came for product market fit, we were ready and we were there. And so over the last 5.5 years, we've rebuilt our product several times. The product that you're about to go live with in the next several weeks, that's a brand new rebuild from the previous version, right? And so, and that version keeps we keep adding new stuff and improving it. Like recently, we launched an ID upload feature on the new platform, and so we can't go to sleep at night knowing that there's stuff that could be done that we didn't do. And I think that's similar or the same as or equivalent to your 1% rule. And that's the stuff that makes me proud to work here at Storage Bug.
I love it. Well, Tommy, this has been a ton of fun. Kind of winding down. I've got a couple of questions to wind down. One is, Made with Love by Storage Pug. Where did that come from? There's got to be a story there.
There is. So I think when I think about a company, right, or any project, I think there's three things that are key and critical to success. Or at least, again, I don't have enough wisdom to say this is how you're going to get 20, 50, 100 years of success, but I can tell you how to get 5 years of success at least. And I think the first thing is passion. You have to be passionate about the thing that you're doing, right? Because if you're not passionate, then you're fighting against yourself. The marketplace is already a very tough place to be. Mr. Market's out to take your lunch every day. So don't also fight yourself on top of it, right? So you have to be passionate about the things you do. You have to show up and have to have grit. You have to have work ethic. You have to have, and it's easy to have work ethic and grit when you're passionate, right? It really feeds into each other. And of course, last but not least, you have to have a good dose of luck, right? And I think to me and for Storage Bug, those are the necessary ingredients. And so we are very passionate about the software and the people and the product that we build. And so that it just made sense to let that be kind of our slogan online. Is like, it is literally made with love. We are truly passionate. We truly care about this. And so we asked ourselves, like, how do we embody that? So it was the easiest way, the most subtle way, right there on every website that we build, stamped, made with love by Storage Pug in Knoxville. And that was just an easy way for us to tell the world that, yeah, this thing was crafted with care, with blood, sweat, maybe not as much blood, but a lot of sweat and tears. And it is something that we truly want to be proud of. And don't get me wrong, we built a lot of websites that we look at and we're like, ooh, wow, yikes, that was not good. But hopefully the next several websites, once we saw that, was that much better, right? And that we continue to be proud of the work that we do. And hopefully I honestly, 2 years from now, I hope that I look at your website first off and be like, yo, that was embarrassing. I can't believe we did that. Yeah. Honestly, I hope that, because I look at websites that we built in 2019, for example, and they're like, whoa, like let's do it better, right? And what's cool is like all of our team, we take more pride on trying to do better than we do take pride of like hanging our hat on something. And I think that's really, really killer, right? But so I think being passionate, having grit, and then having a heavy dose of luck, I think was the key component. And the way that we embody that is, made with love by Storage Bug.
That's beautiful. I love seeing them. I also know those guys probably aren't selling because they care about their websites. Yes. They want to pay top dollar for marketing. I'm like, well, they're probably not sellers. So it's a good data point.
Yes. We definitely have more of our operators buy facilities than sell facilities.
Yes.
If we're looking at trends, that is very much the case.
Yes. All right. So I don't know if you do much reading. Do you have any books who have kind of been foundational in how you think? Maybe some books you've gifted over the years.
Yeah, there are two books that come to mind. One's a newer book that I'm actually reading now. I'm about halfway through it. It's called The First 90 Days. By Michael Watkins. And it's a guide for new employees, but it's also a guide for management and leadership on thinking about your team, your people's first 90 days. What are the things that you should think about? What's your mindset? What are the activities? What are the things that you can do to kind of not only tell the new company that you're at, hey, here's who I am, here's what I want to do, but also set yourself up for long-term success at a company, and timing all of that. And it was recommended to us by a really smart guy, based in Utah now. So The First 90 Days. And the other book that I carry with me, it's in my backpack that I pick up from time to time when I'm traveling, is actually a Harvard Business Review, it's a book. I don't know if you've seen these, but what they do is they publish little books that are collections of their top articles.
I've seen that.
Right. Yeah, and the one that I picked up about a year ago is called On Strategy, and I think it's a collection of 10 or 12 of their most read or most impactful articles on strategy specifically that's ever been published on the Harvard Business Review, and the one by Michael Porter on strategy specifically and the way he thinks about the 5 powers and all of those things. That one I read from time to time, and I always pick up a nugget or two. So those are the 2 books that I'd recommend. Unfortunately, I wish I want to be the guy who reads a lot of books, but I'm not. I do find it hard to prioritize that. But what I do find is it's much easier for me to read articles. And so that's why we're subscribed to Harvard Business Review. We get their monthly magazines. We get access to their online stuff. And there's always brilliant, good stuff to read there too. But yeah, I think those are the 2 resources. So The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins and the strategy compilation by Harvard Business Review.
Beautiful. I'll check it out. Well, to bring us on home, Tommy, why don't you, if you could give yourself advice, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, so one thing that we have discovered at Storage Bug, or at least I've discovered about myself, this might be more of a personal journey than anything, is dwelling on things that happened in the past is really like brain rot, right?
Yeah.
Like it happened. Let's learn from it and let's move on, right? And then of course, bookmark it so that we don't repeat that mistake, right? And so dwelling on the past is not good. And so I would tell my younger self that, right? And because there have been up until, like over the last 10, 12, 15 years, like when we started Storage Pug, I was 27, right? Matt and Rich was the youngest amongst us. We were all in our 20s when we started this thing. And we didn't have enough, we didn't have a lot of gray hair amongst all of us, and there wasn't a lot of wisdom to impart. But I think we figured it out. But I think the one thing is like past events, leave it in the past and don't dwell on it. And I think that's been a nice journey for me as a personal, because I do obsess about things. I think I'm not, but I know that I am a bit of a perfectionist, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to hone the craft and I want to get it done really well. But I think like, if I could tell my 17-year-old self, I was just about to graduate high school, right? Go do stuff, right? Don't perfection isn't a thing. It's not real, right? And then like, just go do stuff. And this is something I learned tremendously from Matt. And I think, it's been cool to have partners that we can lean and learn and grow with each other on. And Matt's mentality is like, yeah, we just got to go do stuff. And I would tell myself that. So yeah, so don't dwell on anything. Just let it happen, or don't let it happen. But once it happened, just learn from it and then kind of move on. And then yeah, do more stuff. I had a lot of like in my early 20s, like 19, 20, 21. I think I was in a place where I was like, life will happen to me. Because I was going to be a doctor. All throughout that whole time, I'm yeah, I'm going to go be a doctor. Life is going to happen to me. And I think like, obviously I wouldn't change anything because now I'm married to a wonderful wife. And we have a beautiful 5-month-old, right? 5.5 months old. Thank you, sir. And like, obviously I wouldn't change any of that. But looking back in my very early years, I wish that I had done more stuff and met more people. But it's never too late to do those things. So
that's right.
Figured it out in my mid-20s, and here we are. And I can't wait to learn some more stuff. And I hope when I'm 45, I'll tell my younger self something amazing that I can't even fathom or imagine yet. So, but Drew, man, thank you so much for having me on and letting me ramble and share some thoughts here today.
It was a ton of fun. Thanks so much, Tommy.
Thank you, sir.
I would really appreciate it if you'd leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you're listening or watching to this show. Thanks so much for joining us on this audio adventure. Let's go have some fun.